All right, welcome into the AL.com Auburn post-game show presented by Medical Properties Trust. I'm your host, Simone Eli, sports anchor down here at WKRG in Mobile, alongside Matt Scalisi. And Matt, about 12 hours ago, we said that this game kind of went the way that it went. Right now, we kind of expected it to go exactly how it went for the Tigers. A blowout win, 60-10, the final score over Akron. But everything you could ask for is what you got in Bryan Harsin's debut.
Not a lot of surprises, but not a lot of complaints either, for sure. I mean, I think everybody on the Auburn side wanted to see what this offense was going to look like. They basically were able to do whatever they wanted to do today against Akron. And you know, look, we all know this was not the level of competition they're going to be facing later on in the season, but it also shows something to just be able to go out there and execute. And Auburn was incredibly efficient today. I think that's probably the word to look at. They did not make mistakes. They did not have unforced errors. And Bo Nix had, I think, one of the most efficient games an Auburn quarterback has ever had. He actually, I believe, set a new school record for the highest completion percentage in a single game today.
Yeah. You know, I think there's something to be said about confidence building games. And when you have a completely new scheme and a completely new system with a new head coach, a new offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, the whole 9 yards there in Auburn, there's a lot to be said about building confidence. You need games like this to get yourself going, not only as a coaching staff, but as players. So I think, like you said, everything you could ask for, you got in this game, a very efficient game, especially for Bo Nix, who I thought looked as comfortable as I have seen him in his 3 years at Auburn.
Yeah, I saw a lot of fans too saying things like, even though, again, given the competition, Bo was making throws tonight we don't see him make even against no defense in previous years. And I think it's pretty clear that he was more comfortable in this offense, just operating and running the plays they wanted him to run. Another good point here from Amber Gilbert in the comments, who says, great to see the team play for 4 quarters and have different looks offensively. I think that was another thing people were hoping to get out of the Harsin era is let's have some diversity on offense. Let's see them do some different things. And they really did. I mean, I think you and I talked about this morning on the pregame show. We expected a lot of Tank Bigsby. We expected a lot of the running game, and we got that. But they opened things up, too, in the passing game. And so they showed, I think, they're capable of doing a lot, and you have to respect this Auburn offense on multiple levels.
Yeah, I think Bo Nix came into this game knowing that he wanted to prove that he is the guy, that he continues to be the guy. It was his job. It's been his job for multiple years now. And I think he wanted to come in and make that statement to make sure that, hey, regardless of anyone we brought in recruiting-wise, regardless of anyone that might have transferred in, I am the guy, and, you know, this is my team. I think he made that statement very, very clearly. His stat line, 20 of 22, 275, and 3 scores. Let's take a look at the rushing game in Tank Bigsby, the returning freshman player of the year in the SEC. 13 carries, 119, and 2 scores, including the first one that went for 32 yards to kind of set the tone on that first offensive drive for Auburn. Tank Bigsby looked to be in prime shape early in this season.
Yeah, and I think also just there was a lot of enthusiasm about it too. I think this game was expected to be a blowout, but everybody was excited to be there, and I think Tank was kind of the embodiment of that. You see that first touchdown run where he came down the field and he realized that he had broken loose, and he's celebrating before he gets into the end zone, but not in a taunting way. Like he was loving it. He was having fun. And I think this Auburn team, I think there was a sense for me watching this that these guys have wanted to just feel like there was something to be optimistic about. They've wanted to have that sense of hope for a while, and I think tonight they showed it. I think Jarquez Hunter also in the rushing game had a fantastic night. I mean, they pretty much ran the ball as much as they wanted to, but Hunter was very promising to see. You get 9 carries and 110 yards and a touchdown tacked on as a part of that rotation. That's very promising to see a young guy like that getting involved.
And let's not forget about Sean Shivers, who did get a couple carries, but also a receiving touchdown. He kind of powered his way into the end zone to score there in the first half, that was. And so just a lot of threats, a lot of weapons, if you will, for Bo Nix throughout the passing game. The running game could be dangerous. It seems like they're really taking well to Bryan Harsin's scheme. And I think that matters a lot. You can tell that these guys have really invested into what he is preaching on and off the field. And what I love, Matt, is to see all the folks in the comments who are thrilled about this win and making sure that it's 60-10
They
and
got
not
me.
53-10. They want that extra touchdown.
They got me. I got it. I got it in there for you now, guys. It's fixed. It's correct now. I also want to say, though, I saw a really good comment that I wanted to bring up from somebody, Josh Knox here, who said there were a lot of teams that were supposed to beat their opponents easily today and struggled. And that's true around the SEC. And I think that's got to make Auburn feel pretty good, too, look, we were saying this is going to be a tough schedule for Auburn. Well, Auburn probably looked as good as anybody today other than Alabama in terms of just taking care of business and beating the opponent you were supposed to beat the way you were supposed to beat them. I mean, you look around the league right now at the scoreboard. Texas A&M had a hard time today. Florida's having a hard time. Mississippi State barely scraped by. So this has not been an easy day for the SEC against even sort of cupcake opponents, and Auburn made it look easy today.
Yeah, there was concerns about what the receiving core would look like. Shedrick Jackson, 5 receptions for 79 yards. Javaris Johnson had a score. Kobe Hudson had a score. So just so many, just hit on every single cylinder, it seems like. Bryan Harsin in the offensive line. I mean, again, let's take this all with a grain of salt, okay? This is Akron, all right? We're not talking about Georgia. We're not talking about anybody in SEC West. We're talking about Akron, all right? We're talking about Maction here. But regardless, like you said, they checked every single box. Fans have everything in the world to be happy about in that regard. And defensively, to allow 10 points, meaningless points in the fourth quarter, hitting on every single cylinder there under a new defensive coordinator, that's got to be promising for Auburn fans and for the Auburn faithful.
I think the lack of penalties is a great sign. Somebody mentioned the discipline of the team and how that's changed things. I think that's a good sign right there, is just the fact that didn't make a lot of mistakes today, which can be something that you can do even against a really weak opponent. I also think, seeing if there's one area where maybe you have something to complain about, they missed the extra point early in the game, that kind of stuff's going to happen. But most overall, good special teams night too for Auburn. Just a very clean game, a very sharp game. This is a team that looks like they're well prepared coming into this. I do think we're gonna have to learn a lot more. I mean, we talked about the offensive line, and it was a concern coming into the year, and they had a great game tonight, but they were not challenged very much tonight. And I think we're going to learn a lot more about this team a couple of weeks from now when they play Penn State, who looked pretty good today, got a big win over Wisconsin. They're obviously a team that has much better athletes than what Auburn had to face today. But building up to it, getting yourself playing sharp football, knowing what it feels like for everything to go right for you, those are good, positive experiences for Auburn. And I think that's what happened tonight. I expect the same thing will happen next week too.
Yeah, you just hit on that word. That's a Gus Malzahn word, by the way. Experience. Gus Malzahn has said for years that nothing is more valuable than experience, and that matters. Whether you're playing Akron, Alabama State, the Little Sisters of the Poor, it doesn't matter. Getting game reps, especially when you're a new guy, a transfer guy under a new system, whatever it may be, getting game reps matters. That can only benefit going into week 3 against Penn State, ranked 19th in the country. Of course, that's 2 weeks from now. But another tune-up game that Auburn will be able to have at home in a great atmosphere. That was one thing I was very, very impressed by, was the fan turnout on the Plains, regardless of the opponent. It was, once again, it's just great to see college football back in full force throughout the entire country.
And Bryan Harsin said that in his post-game comments. He talked about the fan atmosphere. He thought it made a big difference, and it got his team into the game. It got them charged up. I think you could see that the team was having a good time tonight. And I think the overall atmosphere around an entire program does make a big difference. Right now, everybody there is looking forward. They're not looking for things to complain about. They're not worried about what's going to go wrong. Everybody has positive attitude right now, right? And that tends to make everybody enjoy themselves a little bit more for a game like this.
It's all you can ask for. We got a comment right there. The play calling, the execution, the discipline. It's a whole new program. And I think that's true. I mean, fans, players alike, coaches, the energy, like you just said, Matt, was as high as it's probably been on the Plains in a hot minute. There wasn't a lot of stress. It didn't feel like, all right, well, they're not really getting going. I mean, Auburn scored on, I don't even know how many straight drives to start the game.
8 straight drives to start the game.
Eight straight drives. Yep. I'm glad that you know the numbers on that. But I mean, but that's what Auburn fans expected, and they got that. I mean, regardless of whether it was Akron or Bama, whoever it is, when a fan has an expectation and that expectation is met, that is meaningful. And Bryan Harsin, I think that for everything that, positive, negative, whatever in the offseason, came out today and delivered. And I think that fans are excited about that.
I think so. I think everybody's going to be feeling really good about things for the next couple of weeks, and they'll be in a great mood going into the first big challenge on the road at Penn State. And that's where you want everybody. You want everybody behind you. You want optimism. You want the players buying in. I think that's really important too. So, I think this is, you really couldn't have asked for a better start to the tenure of Bryan Harsin. So we'll see how things develop over the next couple of weeks, but can't complain about much tonight.
No doubt. 60-10, the final score on the Plains. Once again, Bo Nix, fantastic numbers, 20 of 22, 275 with 3 scores. Tank Bigsby looked as good as advertised, picked up right where he left off from his campaign a year ago. So Auburn hitting on both sides of the ball. Can they keep it up? Alabama State next week. And then, of course, Penn State on the road. Not easy to play there in Happy Valley. What's that going to look like in 2 weeks? We'll find out.
We will. And join us next week. We will be doing our pregame show here again. And we will see you guys a week from now. Thanks.
Medical Properties Trust, at the very heart of healthcare.